They did not know whence came the fair visions or the promptings of wisdom that he put into their hearts. Hey everyone, Yoyston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today we're going to be taking a look at the power of Gandalf, Aloran, as he was known before coming to Middle-earth, and how he was in fact very powerful, but in ways that greatly differ from other Maiar in Tolkien's works. Related articles and videos will be in the description and cards, my friends. Thank you all so much for being here today. Let's begin our tale. Fundamentally, looking at the character of Aloran, Gandalf's true name before he was incarnated in the form of an old man that we recognize him in, he was not as innately powerful as other Maiar perhaps. Whereas Eonwe, the Herald of Manwë, is perhaps the greatest of the Ainur when it comes to the use of weaponry in battle, and Mairon, later known as Sauron, who crafted works of great power and learned much from the evil of Melkor, was great in many powers of his own, Aloran was never seen as one whose power came from at least open showings or outright force or might. Rather, he was always one whose pity and love moved him toward inspiring and advising others, and the Valar he served, Manwë, Varda, Irmo, and Nienna, were all those whose nobility and virtue were great. In many ways, Gandalf would always emulate such virtue in his own actions. But certainly, in many ways, Gandalf is not seen as the most powerful amongst the Maiar. Even from the beginning, in the days of the Tales of the Silmarillion, the Elder Days, Aloran was never one to give these grand shows of power, as his description in the Silmarillion paints him as one who would rather go amongst the elves, people that he loved, either invisibly or in the form as one of them, giving them fair visions or promptings of wisdom that enlivened their hearts. He was the wisest of the Maiar, and that was fundamentally what drove Gandalf towards great deeds that would save Middle-earth, and what made him a great wizard. Surely, as one of the Ainur, beings who helped create the world during the music of the Ainur, his power was even greater in potential than it was in the power he actualized. He restrained himself, likely out of his own wisdom, and later as a wizard, under the directives of the Valar he served, who meant for him to act more as an advisor than as a warrior or tyrant. And this he did better than any other wizard of the five that were sent. Before he was sent to Middle-earth as Gandalf, he came to the Council of the Valar as they discussed this. He did say that he was afraid of Sauron, believing himself too weak for the mission that the Valar wanted to send the Maiar on as wizards. But of the fear, Manwë said that that was why Aloran should go. Indeed, in the grand scheme of the events of Middle-earth that were to unfold, it was not so much that a great open power like Eonwe's was needed to save the Free Peoples. Otherwise, Eonwe himself surely would have been sent. No, a different sort of power was needed, one that could inspire the Free Peoples to arise and save themselves. Gandalf was to be such a power of wisdom and inspiration, whereas others like Curmo or Saruman became more obsessed with knowledge as power rather than advice and wisdom, or Iwendil or Radagast was obsessed with nature as power, and these obsessions shaped both of their respective courses. And so in coming to Middle-earth, Gandalf, like the others, took the shape of an old man. Yet surely he had power in ways to change his form, at least some of his form, as it seems that was a power of all Ainur. Upon arriving in Middle-earth, the foresight of Círdan saw Gandalf's need for his elven ring of power, Narya, the Ring of Fire, which would, according to Círdan, support Gandalf in the weariness he had taken upon himself. The Ring of Fire would also rekindle hearts in a world that grows chill. To me, this sounds much like the powers and motifs he already possessed, which were likely augmented by this Ring of Power. As much inspiration and counsel of wisdom would be needed for Gandalf to help the Free Peoples find success in the Third Age. Also, we should not ignore that Gandalf, a servant of the Secret Fire, is also thematically tied to the motif of fire in a way as well, as the Secret Fire, or Flame Imperishable, is the metaphysical essence that gives true life and free will in Tolkien's writings, and Gandalf was its servant. In my opinion, this all speaks to what is the true power of Gandalf, which is different than the mighty power of Eonwe, or the cunning and skillful power of Sauron. Gandalf's power is to inspire and give hope. This is, in my mind, a power greater in many ways than such powers of other Maiar, for thoughtful words given at the right time may move entire countries to action, people to work for something they deem to be in their best interest and in the greater good of the world at large. Think about how Gandalf motivated Theoden and helped the people of Gondor during the Lord of the Rings. Gandalf had the power to inspire Bilbo to go on his adventure, for instance, which gave Thorin's company success in the end and changed the world forever, ending the last of the great dragons, rebuilding dwarvish and mannish civilizations which re-established the free peoples in the north, and finding the One Ring, which would ultimately lead to Sauron's destruction, all because Bilbo was motivated by Gandalf to go on his quest. This does not mean that Gandalf did not fight in battles or depict other great power in doing so, but that's not really where his greatest powers were. Certainly Gandalf had other power too, magic that came forth in elemental ways, such as when he created the Great Blaze against the goblins and wargs in The Hobbit, or when he fought the Nazgul on Weathertop, and there was a great light, almost like lightning, or when he broke the Bridge of Khazad-dûm and fought the Balrog, or when he was shining a great light against the Nazgul, as he defended Faramir and his men outside of Minas Tirith. But his greatest power was in lifting other people up, and that is certainly the power that he used more, in giving them courage to face the darkness and offering them counsel. Like when he inspired Bilbo and Frodo to go on their adventures, or spoke against Sauron at Isengard, and not allowing his power of voice to take hold after the Battle of Helm's Deep alongside the Rohirrim. Overall, it also seems that Gandalf was able to offer more of his power as Gandalf the White than as Gandalf the Grey, and perhaps his staves at any given time helped him in focusing or directing his power, but it does not seem evident to me that he needed it to do powerful deeds. Surely he depicted a greater amount of power during his 10-day fight with the Balrog, in a way that represents his strength and might, more so than anything he did around the Free Peoples, as he slew Durin's Bane and was slain by him at the end of this fight. But again, this does not seem to be where the ultimate product of his power was. The greatest thing he could do with his power was what he used it for, inspiring others, motivating and counseling them towards greater deeds that assisted the free peoples at large, and he aided in the fall of Sauron, at times leading them in the absence of other leaders. In many ways, Gandalf was wisdom, compassion, and pity incarnate, within the tale of the Lord of the Rings, and his greatest power came from those values. He rejected things such as the One Ring that would have changed his nature to make him tyrannical, and he maintained his wisdom to help others in the best ways possible, and in doing so, made the greatest amount of change with his power. Perhaps, again, in potential, he wasn't the most powerful Maiar in Middle-earth, but in what he used that power for, he affected the most amount of change. He overcame his fear and doubt, not through might and strength, but through careful courage and compassionate hope. And so we come to the end of our tale about why Gandalf was powerful, and how his power was different. From this story, we see that we should try to follow in Gandalf's footsteps, and to depict our own power by encouraging and inspiring others to do what they deem is right with the time they have. We also see that it is not great power which changes the world, but it's what power is used for that does. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts on the power of Gandalf? Let me know in the comments below. I really like the motifs of Gandalf's power, and how his power is so different than the typical depictions of might, in a way that emphasizes compassion, wisdom, and encouragement. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles, or order some Weta or United Cutlery Lord of the Rings swords, statues, and other replicas from Castle Kon, who does international shipping. Use the code WEST at checkout, and please check out our merch and Patreon. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons and YouTube members: Peter Shepard, Jonathan Putin, Molly Sullivan, Blair Scout and Merton, John Hume, Sam McBee, Matt Sabach, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Reese Jenkins, Adam Petrolik, Anthony Harmon, Dorwin Gray, Arthur Merlin, Dale Davis, Kingswell Project, Robert Bogue, and King of Games 2500. Thank you so much to all of our patrons and YouTube members. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the free peoples today. And I'll see you all again next week with a video on Weathertop, the Watchtower of Arnor. Thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure, my friends. Until the next one.